What's up, guys? Welcome to week 3 of the Hype League podcast. I think we got a pretty great show ahead for you guys. We have a couple of mailbag questions. I got an interview with Malensky. We're going to talk a little bit about his struggles so far. That should be interesting for everyone. I was very excited to record today. I actually I don't know if you guys know this, usually I go to Spicy Pie and get the $5 two pieces of pizza and a tall Bush Light for lunch. But while I do my notes, today I actually went for the second Bush Light. So hopefully this all goes okay because I am feeling a little bit buzzed. Let's jump right into the matchups. Me versus Brandon. We have quite the history here, which we'll get into in the mailbag. I come out on top with a big win, 180 to 178, by far my best week of the season. A tough loss for Brandon. He does look locked into that wild card spot, though, even if he doesn't make the playoffs. He loses Barkley. That's going to be a tough one for him to overcome, but we'll see how it all shakes out, I guess. For me, Ingram has a huge game. That was a big one for me. LaShawn McCoy, they were saying before the game, was going to be the third running back. I don't know where that report came from because he was very obviously like the go-to guy. And Darrell Williams, we'll talk about him later too, but he didn't even really get in until he was in, but he didn't get most of his work done until McCoy came out in the fourth when they had a big lead. They're saying McCoy could have come back in, which I hope is true because I'm going to need him again this week. Some other good news for my team. I could definitely see Rashad Penny taking over for Chris Carson here very soon. And they're saying Schefter is saying that Melvin Gordon may be back in a few weeks. I'm actually not putting any stock in that, though. I will believe it when I actually see him out on the field. But when that does happen, I don't know. Even losing Antonio Brown, I kind of like my team. For Brandon, he lost Barkley, and Zeke didn't have a great game going against Miami. You knew you felt like there was going to be a good chance that they were winning big and didn't need Zeke the whole game. Pollard ends up having a big game. We'll talk about him later, too. He gets a big game from Julio. He is the best wide receiver. I don't think we can really doubt that. I actually have him on my other team, so it was kind of one of those. I have Winston and Julio, so kind of rooting for them to do good, but not too good. It all kind of worked out for me because I won both matchups anyway. Tough loss for Brandon. I feel like he's probably going to be just fine going forward, though. Let's move on. I called Lemmer versus Swain a two fringe playoff team matchup, and that's kind of how it all shook out. Lemmer wins 168-140 to go 2-1. Swain falls to 1-2. Still think Swain has a decent team. He had a couple of his receivers shit the bed. He moved Ridley and Boyd in coming off of big weeks. He puts them in their lineup. They didn't do a whole lot. Ridley especially was garbage. Cooper had a big game for him. I guess we don't. I liked Cooper as like a third round pick in snake drafts. I don't actually have any snake draft teams, but had I had one, I really kind of wanted him. But that ankle thing in training camp really scared me away. A couple other notes on Swain, I guess we have here. Sony Michel sucked his first week after trading him. I guess I didn't mention it in my matchup. It was in my notes, but I didn't say it. Robert Woods also kind of sucked for me. Swain already had Burkhead on his bench, though. I couldn't have imagined actually playing Burkhead because he does have pretty good running backs. Maybe this week, though. But James White will be back. I don't know what you do with the Patriots running backs. But, of course, that's every season, always. What else do I got here? Swain, going with the two tight ends that keep playing really well. One on the bench, one in the lineup. At some point, he should probably try to trade one of those guys. But we're actually going to talk about that a little later in the transactions part of the show. Bold move. Swain goes with Terry McLaurin over Minshew in Superflex. Not often you see a guy go with a receiver over a quarterback if he has one. And Minshew actually had a fine game, but McLaurin was better, and it was a good move. Lemmer did the same thing. He went with Larry Fitzgerald over Cousins. I don't know that I would have pulled the trigger on that. I know Cousins isn't getting the volume, but even a decent game from a quarterback beats like a pretty good game from a receiver, but they both were right. For Lemmer, Cooper Kupp looks awesome. I actually was talking to him about trying to trade for Kupp and instead of Woods a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I don't actually remember. I was a little drunk, so I don't actually remember how far we got in the discussion. But he had some depth there, and I thought it was a guy I could get. Odell was a letdown. I think the Browns the Browns' schedule gets better. Not this week versus Baltimore, but eventually, I think the Browns' offense is going to come around. I'm going to talk a little bit about Kitchen's play calling as we get a little further along. He played Disley, which was a kind of a bold play. It doesn't look like it now because it's had some good weeks, but if you were listening to any of like the fantasy podcasts last week, they were almost unanimously saying, don't play Disley, don't play Disley. He had another big game, even though that last touchdown and untimed down was with no chance of winning was the ultimate garbage time play you could get. Still counts. Also, Lemmer has going for him. I think Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones are going to be in for bigger days ahead too. So maybe Lemmer could be a little better than like the fifth, sixth spot that I kind of projected him for last week. Moving ahead, another team that actually I had two teams I was totally wrong about. Case beats Kish 205 to 157. Kish falls to 0-3. We're at the draft. I was sweating Kish's team. I really thought he looked good. I thought we were letting him get guys for really cheap. And the guys he's got, other than Diggs, who I don't know. I have Diggs on my other team. He's going to the bench. I don't know that we can play him without a major change in their offense. It seems to me like Kish just keeps getting like 12 to 17 point performances across the board from everyone. He just doesn't have any of those guys that score 40 to kind of push you over the edge. On the opposite side of that, Case gets almost 40 from Daniel Jones and almost 50 from Keenan Allen, scores 205 points, which was the top scoring team this week, even though he got a big 0 from Ito Jones. I think this was Case's second time being the top scoring team in 3 weeks. Case, I'm sure it wasn't that fun at the draft, but Case going with the stars and scrub strategy seems to be working for him so far. And his team is a lot better than I guess I said it shortly after the draft when I re-looked at it that I didn't hate his team that much. And maybe Aaron Rodgers actually gets going a little bit. He's had a tough start to the season, but it does get easier. But maybe the Packers aren't just going to be that kind of high prolific offense. I could see that going either way. Next matchup, we have Dustin versus Rob. Another one I said I didn't give Dustin much of a chance of pulling this one out, even though I'm kind of rooting for him to get going, so he stops rooting for Chuck. It's getting a little annoying. But he needed to win to get off the schneid. He beats Rob 172 to 133. Rob falls to 2-1. I still think Rob's team is a contender. How is Michael Thomas going to do without Breeze? 5 for 50 with a touchdown. You're not usually complaining about that. Obviously, you should think it should be better than with Breeze. He did have, I guess I don't have the target numbers written down. Bridgewater actually seemed to play a lot better this week, so I guess there should be some optimism there. The Sammy Watkins jinx kind of continued. He didn't have a great game. It could be next week. Who knows when? Pat Mahomes just literally throws the ball 50 yards downfield so often. Sammy Watkins is going to be standing underneath two of them anytime now. Also put the jinx on Gurley. I'm sorry, Rob. I don't know why I hate your team so much, but talked about how I thought Gurley would be not the top guy, but a solid mid-round running back or a solid mid-number one running back going forward. That didn't happen. Browns totally shut him down. The Browns have a pretty good defensive line. You would think that they would have been in a game that they were winning, that the dump off to Gurley would have been a popular play. It was not. He had one target in the game. He has 29. You're not going to start Phillip Lindsay over Todd Gurley. I don't have the rest of his lineup right in front of me, but I don't know. That was a tough one. Almost 30 on the bench. No Damian Williams for him this week. When Darrell Williams and LaShawn McCoy scored over 50 combined, I'm sure Rob would have liked to have a piece of that. Still probably wouldn't have gotten him all the way over the top. He does have A.J. Green coming back to look forward to, and the Bengals seem to just throw on every play now, so that could be okay. Dustin gets a huge game from Russell Wilson. That helped push him over the edge. And Kamara, too. I think Sean Payton probably listens to the podcast because I called him out last week for not getting the ball to his best player, and obviously he did it this week, and it worked out. Dustin also has Golden Tate coming back here, which could be he could use some receiver help, so that might be a nice addition with Daniel Jones out there. We'll see how that works out. And he had a good game from Adam Thielen, who seems to be the only guy who gets targeted or catches passes for the Vikings, other than Dalvin Cook. Who actually, thinking about it, I didn't mention Dalvin Cook, another big game for me, but we're going to talk about my team every week, or every thing. I was way off. Look at this week. looking at these matchups, I thought Rico would put Chuck down and maybe out of his misery, but nope. Early in the week, early in the matchup, Rico is projected to be a big winner. I don't know what happened. I wasn't following it that closely, but Rico only scores 117 points to Chuck's 130. They both go to 2-1. Baker was a big letdown for Rico on Sunday night. Like I said before, the schedule is going to get better. I feel like he's definitely going to play better. I'm not as big of a fan as some of the other guys on Mayfield, but I don't think he's as bad as we've seen so far. Jimmy G also didn't have a very good game for Rico. That kind of sucked. A couple of weird ones. I didn't understand why. I watched a lot of the game too, so it was surprising. Mark Andrews playing in like a game where they were trailing most of the time just didn't get much done. I don't know. Maybe they were playing to take away Mark Andrews. I can't imagine that's like a strategy though. But maybe they were leaving him in to block. But Kansas City doesn't have the a legendary defensive line or something. You would think they need that. Oh yeah, and Rico also had a pretty big letdown from Galladay and against Philly, which looked like should have been a prime matchup. Instead, Marvin Jones had a pretty good game. And I also think they had. I'm pretty sure they had like a kick return for a touchdown too. That takes away a whole series of plays. But yeah, big letdown for Rico. I also noticed here about Jarvis Landry, who is another guy that I was pretty big on before the season. I thought Landry in PPR was going to be back to his underneath routes. But I heard a stat the other day. He is still running the same routes as last year when they didn't have Odell. Like, he's just playing out of position. I got to put that on Freddie Kitchens, right? Like, that's not who Jarvis Landry is. If you want to get the most out of your guys, you're doing it wrong. Chuck, let's give Chuck some credit. He picked Nicole Hardman, who I liked, but I thought there was, I'm going to give the too many mouths to feed argument, but, there was too many mouths to feed, and he's going to have his bad weeks too, but for now, he catches that long touchdown. I don't know if you guys saw it. It looked like he was shot out of a cannon when he got the ball. Like, nobody was catching him at all. Here, big pickup of the week, though, that really, basically it won it for Chuck. He picks up Tony Pollard and plays him, the backup running against Miami. He outscores Zeke. He has over 100 and a touchdown, and really that is the difference in the week. A couple, questions going forward for Chuck. Chris Carson going to lose his job? I'm sure hoping so. Montgomery does not. In the preseason he was all the buzz. It was Amir Abdullah level buzz for Montgomery in the preseason. That's not paying off, and it's not like they're not giving it to anybody else. They're not throwing it to Cohen. They're not giving it to Davis. I don't really know what's going on in Chicago. And then he had Chris Godwin, not a great game. It's interesting to see if he's coming back down to earth or if he's just, one little bump in the road for Godwin. So there's just one matchup left with the Minotti versus Malensky matchup. I'll talk about it a little bit, and then we will play the interview with Malensky right afterwards. Minotti gets 50 from Mike Evans. He bounces back. Super AIDS is cured. Huge game from Evans. 37 from Lockett. I wish I would have watched more of that game. It'd be interesting to see how that one went, because Russell Wilson and Lockett had big games when they seemed like maybe it was. I like to see how much of it was after they benched Carson. Did they just start throwing on every play afterwards? And now that worked, is that what they're going to do going forward? Mike got his normal 52 combined from Lamar and Mahomes. Actually, it's probably the lowest they've combined for the season, but still pretty good. That was about it. He was the anti-Kish. Kish can only get a couple of guys. Kish's guys only score 12 to 15 points. Mike's score 5 or 50. His running backs are pretty terrible. Will he be able to overcome that? We hear Malensky complaining a lot about his running backs. They should be way better than what Minotti's got, but he's sitting at 2-1, definitely a contender and probably a playoff team. While Malensky goes to 0-3, he's beat by 83 points this week. That one was never close. It should have been worse. Juju has a long touchdown, saves his day. I heard. I probably shouldn't even say it because I don't know the exact stats. But Mason Rudolph, something like in his first 19 pass attempts or something, none or one traveled over 2 yards. I don't know. I didn't see the game. Interesting to see how that one goes. I guess I would probably play Derek Carr if I was Malensky going forward. He needs to trade for a running back, that's for sure. I'm not even sure that anyone has a running back to trade, though maybe Melvin Gordon will come back or Rashad Penny for me. Maybe I can make a deal with him. But we're going to ask him about all that here in a minute. So that's all the matchups. Let's just jump ahead to the interview. Hope you guys enjoy this. Hey Matt, how's it going, man? Thanks a lot for doing this.
What are you doing?
Oh, nothing. I just finished eating lunch and I'm getting ready to record the show. What are you doing?
I gotta take a wicked shit.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Did you want me to call you back?
Did I say you should leave?
No. Okay. Do you want to just jump right into it then?
I like that. That's respect.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Sure. So let's go back to the draft. Like, what were you thinking when you drafted this team?
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Well, it just it didn't really seem like you knew what you were doing.
Nobody knows what the future holds, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're right. We're all just kind of guessing out here.
Yep.
Okay. So let's jump ahead. Let's talk about this past matchup where you lost by over 80 points to Minotti.
How the fuck do you know that?
I saw it on the website.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, they're all on there. Don't you check the website? Maybe that could be part of your problem, I guess.
You're a wormy cocksucker, you know that?
Whoa, dude, let's keep this civil. I was just asking you a question. You wanted to be on the show.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, I guess you can ask me a question.
Come up your first ball job.
Yeah?
How long did it take for the guy to come?
Okay. Hilarious. Can we get back to fantasy football here?
The customer's always right.
Yes, okay. So let's talk about Kerryon Johnson. He's been a bit of a disappointment for you this year. How do you feel about him?
Fucking twat.
Okay. So not happy with Kerryon, I take it.
Don't give me that smart alecky shit.
Oh, jeez. How about Josh Jacobs? I take it he's not really getting the workload that you were hoping for. Is there anything you might want to say to John Gruden about, his...
You're weak, you're out of control, and you become an embarrassment to yourself and everybody else.
Oh, wow. Okay, strong words for Gruden. Matt, you seem angry.
Oh, no, what are you, crazy?
Oh, okay. So did you do anything? Did you go anywhere to watch the games this week?
I went over for a blowjob. Your mother was working the bonbon concession at the Eiffel Tower.
Okay. That's enough. Hey, you asked me to do this
Your sister's ass.
Yes, okay. Thank you for nothing, Matt. Bye.
Wow, that was some interview, Matt. Don't really know what to say about that. Let's just jump into the mailbag. I forget that ever happened. The first question here was, on a scale, this is from Brandon, on a scale of 1 to Gail Gugliotta, how ashamed are you about being in first place? Well, Brandon, I don't know Gail Gugliotta, who that is, so I asked around, and both Clark and Joe Szymanski told me that she's not that bad. So I guess that's what we're going to go with. To answer your question maybe with something I do know, I would compare my team to maybe Amy Marcano. I kind of skanked my way to the top these first couple of games. My team's not that pretty, but it's okay. And you know what? She's a doctor now, and I think it's a good chance my team could be the champion. Seriously, though, I don't feel bad about being in first place. I've made, 13 or 14 moves already to start the season, and 2 trades. My team needed help, and I am working to get it done, and I am not going to feel bad about that. The second question, also from Brandon, has Brandon ever beaten me? So I went back and looked it up, and actually you have done slightly better than I thought. You have beaten me twice in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matchups after this week. Last season, I did knock you out 3 times, and I've knocked you out of the playoffs now twice. But yes, you have beaten me twice. They both happened in the 2017 season. You actually were 2-0 against me that year when I actually had Rogers, he got hurt, and I also had Jordy, and they kind of went to shit right at that point.
That was all. I do have one other mailbag question from Dustin, but I think I'm going to save that one for a couple of weeks. It was kind of a let's look back at the draft projections kind of thing. We'll talk about the transactions next, and then we'll look ahead to next week's matchups. Some very interesting transactions this week, I got to say, guys. So we're going to start out with Swain picks up a third tight end. I talked about it in his earlier matchup. He's already got a tight end he's not playing and not trading. So what's he do? Goes ahead and picks up a third one. Don't know about that move. Chuck picks up Dorsett. Well, I think it was Chuck. I should have wrote that down. Dorsett for $4. Maybe that's okay. I mean, it's not an overspend, I don't think. But I don't know. Everyone bought into Dorsett after his first game. I want to say it was last year or the year before. And nothing ever came of it after that. I do know it was Chuck who picked up Darrell Williams for $5. Maybe that's a little much. I should have wrote down who the second lowest bids on these were. I think Darrell Williams has a ton of upside, though. What if McCoy doesn't play this week and it doesn't look like Damian Williams is going to go again? We do know that whoever Andy Reid's running back is going to be really good. So, potential that he cuts him next week and Damian Williams and McCoy are both back. But you never know. There's a chance that, McCoy becomes the third down guy and Williams is the go-to guy and Damian Williams is on the bench. That could all happen. Though I should say, I guess in that game last week, Darrell Williams really didn't do anything until the fourth quarter, and it was just two big plays after McCoy was out of the game. So who knows? It's still a possibility. I think Swain made a pretty decent pickup with Kyle Allen at $6. I actually like that better than Teddy for $9, though I don't think Teddy for $9 is a big overpay either. I'm not even sure why I like Kyle Allen better. It's probably just because I haven't seen Kyle Allen fail yet, so I'm sure that'll happen in a week or two here, and then I'll be like, oh no, Teddy was way better. I'm sure that's really the only reason. Two other running back pickups. Jamal Williams to Case for $7, and I know there was a bunch of people bidding on him here. I don't really understand why. I mean, I guess he did get 12 carries to Aaron Jones' only 10 last week. I gotta think that was mostly just situational. He has a long history of just not being a very good player. I guess I would add him for $1 if I could, but that's about the most I would have gone there. I don't know. Last one, Malensky spends $23 for Gallman. I would have to go back and look, but I think that is probably the most anyone's ever spent on a player in our fab pickups. Maybe the first year at the very beginning. I'll go back and look one of these days. But I think this is probably the most anyone's ever spent. It seems like a ton to me, but looking on Twitter, I saw people who were saying he went for much, much more. Some people saying like 80% or more of their fab budgets. But I guess those leagues probably have $0 bids, or at least I would hope so. So it's not exactly the same. We'll see. I mean, I don't know what Gallman's going to do. If he is like 80% or 70% even of Barkley, then it's probably fine. And Malensky's in desperation mode anyway, so he needs to do it. So, yeah, those are transactions. They were interesting to say the least this week. Let's move ahead to next week's matchups and close this show out. We got a big one, me versus Case, first place versus second place. The projection shows this actually is pretty close. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm excited for it, though. Lemmer and Brandon, that's another close one. Brandon loses Barkley, so his team goes from like the best to only pretty good, and Lemmer's got a surprisingly good team. Another big one this week, too, Minotti and Rico, 2-2-1 teams that I think both are thinking playoffs. And you're going to need every win they can get because I really think Brandon's going to take the wild card at 6. It only leaves 5 spots for everyone else. Rob takes on Malensky. Will Rob finish off Malensky this week? I think so, but we'll see. Kish takes on Dustin. He's 0-3. I mean, here's the big question. If Kish finishes in last place, is this going to be like a duet situation between Handa and Kish? I'm guessing Handa never thought when he picked Kish to be like his co-owner, and run his team that he may have to sing the national anthem for everybody because of it. I still don't think that's going to happen. I think Malensky or Dustin are more likely to finish as the last place team. And then a big one here too, Chuck versus Swain. They're both sitting at 2-1. Chuck is 2-1, right? either way, yeah, Chuck's 2-1. I wrote down 1-2 because I'm an idiot. But Swain's 1-2. Both those teams are fighting for that last playoff spot. I doubt either one outscores Brandon on the season. They really need to get up into that 5th seed. I mean, you never know. Chuck's chances of repeating aren't that great. But what if Darrell Williams becomes the Chiefs' number 1 guy, and he's Damian Williams this year? I mean, we know whoever Andy Reid's guy is going to be the guy, and that could change everything for Chuck. So I'm not writing him off just yet, even though his team doesn't look that good. Swain's team is decent. He could definitely take down Chuck this week. There's some good matchups. We'll see how it goes. So that's it for this week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the Malensky interview, as terrible as it was. And go Browns this week. They can't fall to 1-3 just like anybody else. I'd really like to see them bounce back, and maybe get a big win on the road against the Ravens. We're all kind of hoping that it's Baker versus Lamar for a long time here, for AFC North titles. And I don't think that Baker is going to be bad. I think he's fine, but we'll see how it goes for this week. I mean, Lamar is looking, not like Pat Mahomes, but he's looking pretty damn good. And I would definitely say the Ravens have, a huge upper hand in the coaching department. So hopefully it'll be a good matchup. And then the Browns can come back home or come back 2-2. I don't have their schedule in front of me, but whatever. This isn't a Browns podcast. Good luck this week, everyone. Go Browns.